So you're a creative with a lot of ideas. But what are you doing? Are you actually like executing them and getting them done, putting them out there? Or are you just letting these seeds, these beautiful seeds that, you could go plant in the ground, in the soil, and they could grow into something that can feed you, nurture you, help you understand more about yourself. And a tree can do so much for other people. Are you putting those seeds into the ground, or are you just letting them sit in your pocket? You have plenty of ideas. You could go outside, take a breath of air, feel the breath of air, and just turn that into an idea. Like, you have 20, 30, 40 ideas come into your head every day. Some of them you write down, some you don't. Some of them you elaborate on, you grow into something else, and some of them you don't. But then there always comes a point where something just stops you. You lose the excitement, you lose the spark you had. I have been there. I'm there a lot. But I got to a point where I got sick of it. Because I had 2 years ago quit my corporate consulting job to do this full time, to create full time, I love writing songs, I love playing music, grew up playing violin, and I knew that I wanted more time and energy to focus on that, as well as writing and creating YouTube videos. But for the longest time, I couldn't finish anything, and I did not understand why. And a lot of the past 2 years, a lot of the unpacking for me has been understanding what was actually just blocking me from finishing things. It wasn't that I had to will myself more. It wasn't that I had to find some magic answer. It was that there were things in front of me, like conditioning in my psyche, that I really had to identify and let go of before I could start finishing my projects. The world needs more visionaries. The world needs vision. Everything that exists now was once a vision in somebody's mind, and they took the time and the energy and put their life force into materializing the vision. And that's why it exists in this material world, here, outside, wherever else. And that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to materialize your visions, because I want to hear them. I want to see what you guys can create. In my little journey of finding oneself, I've kind of identified 4 main pillars of things that were blocking me. So it starts with boundaries, and then building good habits, good creative habits, fighting off perfectionism, and embracing structure in your delivery. So let's dive into it. Setting boundaries is something that has hit so close to home for me lately, because it's a lesson that's been coming up a lot in my life lately. And I know there's a lot of different perceptions or definitions that people have of boundaries. And a lot of it comes from like therapy talk and like your physical boundaries that you have in relationships. But there's a lot of other types of boundaries that I feel like are less talked about. And a lot of them I've had to learn the hard way. And they're along the lines of like emotional boundaries. Like, you don't need to share everything with everybody. Right? You have close friends, and those are close friends that you trust. And you have people who are kind of acquaintances or friends, but sometimes they'll call you close because they share things with you. Does not mean you are obligated to share things with them. And that is especially important when it comes to your creative visions, because they're like babies. They're raw. They're vulnerable. They are things like your emotions that you are trying to materialize into this world, into the form of art, or into the form of your business. You're trying to provide solutions to people, and you're putting your life force energy into this, building out this vision. And at the very beginning stages of creating a project, or building a business, or writing a song, that's when everything is the most raw. That's when things don't really have the material validation that you may need as the creator of that thing that you're creating for you to feel confident in the idea without letting other people's opinions sway you one way or another. Which is why it's really, really important to only share those things with people that you trust creatively, emotionally. All like you need to have those emotional boundaries. And you could have friends that really, really care for you and you really, really care for, but you're still not maybe creatively aligned. You don't owe them shit. And so, would I share a really raw idea with somebody who I fear may criticize or not fully understand the idea before it's at the point of completion where I am done with it, and I am not going to let somebody's lack of understanding affect the way that I create the thing that I'm trying to create? No. So I'm going to wait until I am at that emotional state. And that means setting boundaries with yourself. There's also boundaries of time and energy. Especially now I want to talk about energy because energetic boundaries are not talked about enough. Of course, you need to block time out because your time is energy. You need to have boundaries with your time. You need to give yourself time to have space away from your work, to live a life that enriches you as a person, as an artist, because all your art comes from the person that you are. That's what makes your art interesting. Otherwise, it would just feel like it's made by a robot. Your life experiences, your life force, that's what you put into your art. So you need to have certain boundaries around, how much time you're spending in your craft, how much time you're spending with your friends, and also is what you're doing sustainable? And yeah, a lot of the times if you use a computer, if you create on your phone, these social media apps, they're designed to take your attention. And the more attention energy you spend on things outside of your work, the less attention energy you have to be able to focus and channel into your work. So it's so important to put up those energetic boundaries. And if you have people in your life that are draining you, they're not being good friends, they're not being understanding, if they don't agree with the vision, those are also boundaries you need to put up socially. And that could mean not spending as much time with them. That could mean cutting them off completely if they're really draining you that much. That could mean maybe I do this activity with this person, but I don't do this activity with this person. Or maybe these are things I can talk about with this person and things I refrain from talking about with this person. Those boundaries, how you set them, up to you, but understanding that exists is so important. And then finally, having boundaries around what is noise for you and what is actually your vision is so important. So every time I come up with these ideas, I will write them down and I will very succinctly find my North Star. Doesn't matter how big the project is, each project has a North Star. Each project has, your mastery is your ability to have the vision and execute it successfully and authentically to the vision that you originally had. So defining that North Star will allow you to kind of move about life, move about your creations with a filter of, is this working for me? Is this not working for me? Does this get me closer to my North Star? Does this not? So doing a little audit on the activities that you're doing, the belief systems that you have, the projects that you're working on, and your North Star as an artist as well as for each project is really going to help walk around with that filter of, is this going to contribute to my North Star or not? And it helps you make decisions so quickly. And that is a beautiful thing. Reducing decision fatigue. Thank you. Please, more of it. You know how fatigued you, because every time you make a decision, that's your energy. It's brain energy. And so if you can just make things a habit, then you don't have to use that brain energy. And that segues us into the next pillar that I was talking about. So you got to create a habit, creative habit. Actually, I'm reading this book right now. It's called The Creative Habit by Twyla Tharp. And she's this world-renowned choreographer, ballet dancer, and she talks about her own process in creating a creative habit because she has been doing this full-time for I don't know how many years, her whole life. She's around a lot of other artists, a lot of other creatives, and she's kind of picked up certain things where she has a routine that she creates every day so that she can be as creative as possible with her choreography and her dance. And that includes her like waking up at 5 a.m. to go to the gym every single day. And then she goes, I think, what was it? Like she goes to the studio, like she has breakfast, she goes to the studio, she spends a few hours, and then she comes home and she reads and writes, and then she goes to sleep and repeats it again. And by being able to do this, she is able to kind of like find different sources through her reading and writing in her habit when she goes home. And scratch for ideas, take those ideas and bring them into her dance. She wakes up, she goes to the gym, it gives her energy, it keeps her in shape for her choreography and so that she can be a better dancer. And then she goes to the studio and she does her thing for a certain set of hours. And really, at the end of the day, what success comes down to is consistency, because you can get good at anything if you do it for long enough. Some people, talent is really never enough. Some people can be so talented, but because their mindset is just banking on their talent and not the consistency, not showing up, they aren't able to get to the level that, a lot of like full-time, like the greatest people in the world, the greatest athletes, the greatest songwriters, the greatest singers, the greatest performers, the greatest artists, the greatest painters. Those are people who just love what they do so much that they can show up to it every day. And so I've kind of had this struggle with especially after coming from the corporate world, coming from the consulting world, of I don't want to will myself through, because in the past that had given me success, but I was so burnt out. And so part of my embarking on this journey was just I'm going to figure out how I can do what I want and do it well. And so I think you have the capacity, the capability to be good at a lot of things if you put the time and effort into it. But what guarantees that you can, or at least gives you a little bit more of a likelihood that you can actually get good at the thing, is by loving it so that your discipline and your consistency doesn't feel willed. It feels natural. I'm a person who really believes in Taoism. I'm a person who believes in Wu Wei, and what that is effortless inaction. That is not the same as being lazy. It means that there is a natural rhythm and a natural flow to things in the world, to the universe. And that also that constitutes for our talents and creativities. There's a natural flow for things. And willing yourself is like swimming upstream in a river. And effortless inaction, Wu Wei, is like following the current and swimming along the current. It's just, you put the least amount of effort in for the maximum result. And I'm a martial artist, I do jujitsu, and Wu Wei is used so much in jiu-jitsu and many other martial arts, because the whole point of the game is not to be the strongest person in the room. It's to have the best technique. And what the technique tells you is that you need to understand the human body so that you can use it to create lever points, so that you can control your opponent's body through using their lever points. It's all about building leverage. There are going to be days where you're less motivated to do things, but because you made a commitment to be consistent to this habit, you're going to do it anyway. And so just establishing a rhythm in your life will help you so much, because it will carry you through the days where you feel a little less inspired. So for me, that includes my morning pages. I write first thing in the morning, 3 pages a day minimum. And that I haven't missed a day in years. I have at least 5 years worth of journals up on my shelf in my room. And this allows me to be able to look back and really just create the life that I want to have. Because in showing up to the page every day, I'm scripting a narrative of my life. And it makes me feel more in control, because I noticed myself getting things I want, reading my old journals and realizing, hey, I've been setting this up the whole time. And so now as I'm trying to, move on to bigger and better things, it just gives me so much more confidence in doing that. Creating the habit is such a beautiful thing. It's also like creating constraints in your life, deadlines a little bit. Like I told myself I was going to film today, even though I didn't really want to. I'm tired, but I want to get this video out so I can go on and create more videos in the future. And if I keep pushing it back, so I just set a deadline. I said, hey, I'm going to film this video today. We're going to get it out tomorrow. And that's that. I'm going to maintain this accountability I have with myself because I want to show myself that I'm capable of keeping promises to me. Yes. Also, another thing I do is I will kind of like commit to a certain vibe. So when I'm making music and I'm sitting in front of my DAW, or DAW, whatever you want to call it, and I'm like making a song, I will take some inspiration, and once I start building an idea out, I'm like, okay, this is the vibe that I want it to have, and I will commit to that vibe. And that kind of locks me into like a certain set of instruments that I can use, and a certain way of singing, and like certain lyrics that I could, because I'm trying to tell a specific story. And what that does is it reduces my need to like spend so much energy trying to make decisions. Again, minimize your decision making, maximizing what you can do with the decisions that you do make. This could also be like material or structural constraints. So when I paint, I'm a big watercolor girl. Sometimes I do acrylics, but if I'm mixing watercolor and acrylics, it's so many more factors that I need to think of because the textures just don't add up. So for me, like when I'm painting, I constrain it to one type of paint. Being able to be like, okay, this is the material I'm starting off with. I'm not going to use any other material. It forces you to get creative within the constraints of the material, which is where the real creativity lies. Because if you don't have any structure in your habits, then you have too much chaos and it can't be understood by yourself, by other people. Part of the reason why it's so important to set like a habit is because at the end of the day, it's really the accumulation of the small, like the 1% better every day, or the small efforts that you make consistently that really make a big difference. Change doesn't happen, like real sustainable change doesn't happen overnight. And if you're familiar with the concept of investing, it's the same thing. It's like compound interest. So if you just invest $10 a day of your salary into the market, you're golden, versus investing $100 or $200 at the end of the month. It's not the same. Even $300 at the end of the month. The more you can take small actions to compound, the better off you will be. A lot of the times you won't see like this huge change until you hit a critical mass. So all of the small efforts that you're putting in, you don't really necessarily see the return on the rewards until they hit a critical mass. So sometimes you just gotta trust the fucking process. And for me, what that looked like is I set a work schedule where I have to put in at least 80 or 40 hours a week into my creative work. I treat it like a full-time job because right now it is my full-time job, but it's also, it deserves the same amount of time, energy, and attention that I would give to a full-time job. And because I can put this much time, energy, and attention into it, I'm able to really just create things, even create bad things, because everything in life is either a win or a lesson. And so if I'm making bad things, those are all lessons. But I don't know what's a win or what's a lesson until I create it and put it out there. So creating a habit out of just doing the damn thing and putting it out there regardless of the outcome of it truly, truly, truly gives you the chance. You miss all of the shots you don't take, so take some shots. You can show up to the page every day, but if you're in front of the page and you let those doubts come in and you let the need for everything to be perfect to come in and you get so hung up on that you can't finish the project, then what is the damn point? And that brings us to the next pillar or constraint or whatever. The next thing you need to clear out of your life is perfectionism. Stop Stop trying to be a perfectionist. There's like this emotional attachment that you have to being right, to getting everything right. Why? Go to therapy. I can't explain for you, but I will say in my own experience, it was because of my childhood and I was punished for being wrong or acting in a way that, wasn't what I was supposed to do. And so I started to learn that the only way I could receive love and validation was by being the perfect kid. The thing is, perfect does not exist. Everybody has different definitions of perfection. It's a very, very subjective thing. And perfectionism is usually tied to you needing validation from other people's definition of perfect. Because you know your own definition of perfect. That's your vision. When you are so tied to the idea of perfect, you cannot co-create with the universe, and you don't leave room for magic to happen. Stop trying to plan every damn thing and getting upset when it does not go exactly the way you wanted. Part of being an artist is the art of improvisation and rolling with the punches and reacting in appropriate ways, because those are actually how you can control a situation instead of gripping so tightly onto a scenario that you suffocate it. Sorry, I think you can tell it's very emotionally charged for me. Tyler, the Creator, love this quote from him. Create like a child, edit like a scientist. Fucking changed my life, because then I could categorize my activities. When I'm creating, I have to let go of judgment, because when I'm judging, I am not in the act of creation. If you are a spiritual person, there is a whole chart of vibrations. Judgment is pretty low on it, and love, expression, creativity is pretty fucking high on it, because that's where source energy is. And when you're tapped into the source, that's when you create. So if you can have periods where you can just allow yourself to create, and then you maybe take a step back from it, that's where boundaries come in. Boundaries are great with this practice. Take a step back from it, and then you go back and you judge it and you edit it later. You say, oh, I remember what I was trying to say, and maybe I didn't execute it exactly perfectly. Let me go fix this. This is big with music production, because I love to improv. I love to freestyle. I love, the melodies, when I'm spinning over a track, melodies just come to my mind. And hey, maybe technically it didn't come out perfect vocally, maybe my voice cracked or whatever. But I got to get the concept and idea out while I was tapped into that source, and then I can go back and I can re-record when I have better technique later on. But those are honestly two different, you have to have the separation of the two. So when you're actually setting your attention to sit down and create, having that intention of removing judgment and saying, hey, I know it's not ready to show. Let me just do this from a place of being tapped into the love, being tapped into the force, removing pressure, any judgment or expectations that I'm putting onto this creation. For now, I can write them down, and honestly that helps me, is I write them down and I forget about them, and I come back to them later when I'm ready to edit like a scientist, and that's when you put the judgment on. But if you put the judgment on too early and you don't draw those boundaries, you will just silence the inner child. The inner child is tapped into the love and the source, so don't do that. But yeah, I've learned, especially as an engineer, that this whole process is an iterative process. which means that you can create something and then you can go back to it later and change it and tweak it how you want to. And a lot of the times your first draft isn't the most perfect thing, but a lot of times it has like really good essence. That's when you're most tapped into the essence, and then you go back and you create. And you don't want to like over edit, but allowing yourself to have a few generations of iterations before you actually release could help. And you can release along the way and iterate along the way. It really depends on what you're doing. If you are an entrepreneur and it's like a product that you're working on, yeah, iterate a lot. But the general routine that this follows is like you have a prototype and then you create a minimum viable product and then you iterate off of that. And so I've taken that mentality into building my art out too, because at the end of the day, maybe like first I create the prototype, and that is the thing that I create with myself. And then I go and I show my friends the demos of the songs I create, and then that helps me edit and refine with people that I trust and care about their judgment or like value their judgment. And then I take that's the MVP, and then maybe after that I can go finalize it, show like maybe not as close friends, but it's already like done enough that I feel confident in it, and then I can release it. And so those are kind of like the stages of development of my work, and allowing the spirit of iteration to impact that or influence that is really nice, because it takes pressure off of everything needing to be perfect the first time. It allows me to let go of an attachment to the outcome, because that's also part of the creative process, is you are co-creating with the universe. And a lot of the times, especially when I'm like painting or drawing, I don't know exactly how it's going to turn out, but I also know that it goes with like each stroke of the brush, each stroke of the pen. When I'm writing, it's each sentence. I have to take things one step at a time. And when I'm taking things one step at a time, I'm able to be present. So I'm not writing a sentence and thinking about what the next 3 sentences are going to be. I'm just writing the sentence as it comes to me. And when I'm ready for the next sentence will come to me. And then when I'm ready for the next sentence will come for me. But trying to look at the bigger picture when you're in the thick of it is not going to help you, because it's going to take away from your ability to be present, which is exactly what you need. And then also, something I do mentally too is like, I used to really let this fear and self-doubt rule me. So I would like sit at my DAW and be like, you just started learning production half a year ago. What are you doing? Like, this is so bad. You should just stop right now. You're never going to be like the people you look up to. I really like the Galimatas production, like on Alina Baraz's tracks. Love that vibe. That's something that I'm going for. But when I try to recreate some of their vibes in my own songs, sometimes it doesn't work the way it does. But then I have to remind myself that the doubt and fear, like what if people judge me for this? What if it doesn't turn out the way I wanted? I have to accept those doubts and fears as part of the process and acknowledge them, and then just move on regardless of them. Because if I let those things stop me, which I have in the past, I don't finish the damn thing. So part of what I do is like, do you think that your favorite producers went through this too? Yeah, I'm sure when they first started off, they were going through this. It's just they got good because they got through it. And so you just have to do the same thing. And then sometimes you gotta acknowledge that the vision itself will evolve. So it really depends on how big of a vision that you have is. But a lot of the times, the journey of like materializing the vision is allowing it to evolve through the iterations, and you'll find yourself back to maybe like the original vision that you had, like literally as a child, and you're like, whoa, this is fucking magical, because I materially saw myself go here, and then here, and then here, and when I was here, I didn't think I would get here, but then I was here, and then I was here, and then it led me to there. It was all part of the path. So part of honoring your vision is understanding and defining your vision, but also as you move through your journey, letting go of the material validation or the mirror that you're facing in reality. And sometimes you'll use the validation, you'll use it as a mirror and say, okay, this is where I'm at right now realistically. But it doesn't mean that I can't get here. It just means this is where I'm at and I have to acknowledge it in order to get here. Otherwise, if I am here and I'm not looking at the mirror, I'm going to stay here because I won't be aware that I'm here because I'm not looking at the damn mirror. It's a little meta, I know, hard to explain. I hope that did a good job of it. All right, so the last part is once you get through the perfectionism and you actually create something you want to get out there. I know, coming from a consultant, you do have to use like business and structure in your delivery. I know. Okay, so this last one, the whole like structure and delivery aspect of it, once you get through perfectionism, once you have an actual product, a tangible product that you're ready to release, the structure and delivery, and what this means is like marketing. Marketing is really just the delivery of a message. Like it can be persuasion of awareness, because the intent of marketing is to get people to act on a purchase or decision. But the means of marketing is delivery, and that is something that you can use and should be using with your art. Is like, how are you structuring the vision and the message that you're putting into the world so that other people can understand it and it can benefit other people and be communicated? Because a vision is a message needs to get received. So the more that you're able to get it in front of the eyes of other people, in the ears of other people, in the minds of other people, then you have done successfully a good job of sharing your vision. Because isn't that part of the whole point of art, besides the self-expression part? Like, you would not be watching this far through if you did not want to share your work. If you can get your work in front of the people who are really going to resonate with it, that is the job of the artist. You're creating something where you want to be heard and someone wants to feel seen. And there's this intersection between the two. And the more people, you're already speaking, you already want to be heard, right? The more people that you can find that resonate with this, the more people you can make feel seen, that's how you make the world a better place, because then these people can just be like, whoa, I think I believe in something greater than just practicality. There is some great being, creative force, whatever, God, like whatever you want to call it out there, that there's no way this wasn't meant for me because I needed to hear this right now. And that is what, as an artist, you want the people who receive your message to feel. That's why we make art. That's why even like business, that's why you want to like impact. Yeah, money's great, but at the end of the day, if you really wanted money, go fucking trade stocks. You're doing this entrepreneurship, like this very specific thing that you're building, the vision that you had, it's to improve the world. It's to solve problems, to create solutions that did not exist before. And that's why entrepreneurship is a creative act. It's the same as art. It's just the art of business. But yeah, clarity and structure are what can make your message understandable. And the more structured you can make it to the people receiving it, the more you are able to resonate. I think a lot of people have this misconception that like business is greed. It's because the people who have the audacity to be in business right now are the greedy ones. But it's people like you who need to take these skills and get your vision out. Materialize your vision using the same mediums and methodologies that already exist, but they're being used for evil. You have the ability to adapt them and learn them and change it and change the nature of the game and use them for good. Look, sometimes I'll like make a video and I'll be like, this is fucking stupid. But I put the time and effort into making the video, and this is fucking stupid. That's self-doubt. And then I release it and I get people, they're just like, whoa, I needed to hear this today. And so the ability to have that type of impact on people, because I'm taking all of the business skills that I learned from my past and applying it to just materializing my own vision, is so, so beautiful. It's a blessing. It's a gift. Like, I wake up every day and I'm excited to create because I know that, one, it will positively impact my life. I've never felt more aligned in my life. But two, it positively impacts other people. People I don't even fucking know. Probably live on the other side of the globe. But because I can do this and I can package this into something for somebody else, they can feel seen in a way that they wouldn't have been able to had I not, put in the work, packaged it, delivered it. But yeah, so I created a little creative boundaries audit worksheet that, if you want to take the time, I basically packaged up all the content that I just talked about today into a free resource, kind of giving you prompts for how you can reflect on your life and figure out where your boundaries lie, figure out who is supportive of your vision, who is not supportive of your vision, how you can draw boundaries there, what you're doing with the time and energy that you're spending, and then just it'll help you get it. Literally takes 10 minutes. It's 2 or 3 pages, and it'll help you understand where you want to draw your boundaries in life so that you can feed your energy to the things that are feeding back to you, and kind of withdraw yourself or cut yourself off a little bit from the things that are draining you so that you can get a little bit one step closer to honoring your vision. So until next time.